How do you see it when your child makes a mistake? Maybe something that the child did that you consider as a mistake, and maybe the child didn't know that it is a mistake, but something that's very obvious in your eyes that it is a mistake. Doesn't he know? Doesn't she know? Or maybe you've actually told him that it's a mistake, that it's right or wrong, and the child seems to have repeated doing the same. How do you see it? How do you perceive it? Hey, welcome to this podcast, to this episode, and this is Sujaya. And let's go deep into what is mistake and how can you view, how can you perceive any mistake that your child has done. So just stay with this podcast, just stay with what I'm saying to you, and just see how you can implement in your parenting journey. Now, so let's, of course, just talking about mistakes is that again, it's again a big ocean. So let's just go into one single aspect in the entire domain of mistakes. Say just a repeated mistake that you actually maybe you are struggling or facing a challenge with it. Say you've already told your child that this is wrong and your child still continues to do it. Maybe spilling of water, maybe spilling of milk, maybe jumping on the bed, maybe writing a not in the proper way, maybe not coming back home, or again, whatever it is. Right? So maybe you are thinking that how many ever times that I tell him it's a mistake and he continues to do it. He continues to do it. But the thing is this, when your child has done a mistake and you are, the child has been zoned in, that has been judged, has been blamed, has been labeled that you've committed a mistake, the child is no more connected to his own feelings or his own intuition, right? When he's done something and it is called as a mistake after a certain point of time, but whatever he's done at that point of time was the best that he could do. So after a certain point of time, from another perspective, from another level of awareness, it is labeled as a mistake. And at this point of time, when the child is put in a zone of guilt, of blame, of shame, then the child starts to get disconnected from how he was feeling, how he was being at that instance of time when he has actually done it. When he has actually done it, when he didn't know that it was a mistake. Right? Maybe I'm just confusing you, but here's the thing. He's done an action A at a point A. At a point B, from another person, the action A is labeled as a mistake. So once he's put into a blame mode, once he's put into a guilt mode, once he's put into a shame mode, he is no more in connection with how he was feeling, with how he was being at the time A when he was doing the action A. He is more tuned to, oh my god, why am I being judged? Oh my god, another kind of scold that I'm yell or scold that I'm getting from my parent, getting to have from my parent, right? Something like that, something that again that usually happens between me and my parent, or some other kind of thought that is actually not helpful, that is actually not beneficial for him to understand why he's done action A, what were his feelings behind doing action A, and coming into an understanding of his with his level of awareness at time A when he did that action A. Now, there is another time, okay, let's just shift gears, and there's a forward time now. Time B, he's done the same thing again. He's done the same thing again. And then maybe you are coming up with statements like, I've told you you're not supposed to do it and you're still doing it. Don't you understand that we shouldn't be making mistakes? Making mistakes is a sin. It's wrong to do this. It's wrong to make a mistake. You know it's a mistake and you still continue to do it. You shouldn't be doing it. How else should I tell you? Or something like that again. So when you are going in this direction, now first thing is there could, again, these could be the reasons behind him committing the same mistake again, that when he's done that action A, Again, we don't know if it's a mistake, it's only a perception from the adult's eye. Now, when he's done that action A at time A, and he's done the same action, say the same action A at a time B, he's done that because he's stopped, again, maybe not just stopped, but he's drawn away from his own feelings, from his own intuition. He's not actually had an opportunity to get into how he was feeling and what led him to do that action A at time A. Now, once you are not in contact with your own self at any other point of time, at time B, you no more are aware of why you are doing what you are doing. You just do it, maybe something that's actually driving you forward. You just do it, that's all. There is no reasoning behind why you are doing. There is no thinking before acting. On the contrary, if the child was encouraged, or if the child was given the time, the space, and the freedom to go into his own self and understand what his feelings were at time A when he did that action A, now at time B when he seems to be doing the same action A at time B, he has a better understanding of his feelings. He is in a better connection with his own self, and he has a better control over his mind. So when you are dealing with some actions of your child that you consider as mistakes, and you are zoning in on your child, you are putting your child in a guilt zone, blame zone, shame zone, label zone, judging the child, what this leads to is simply the child is being drawn away from his or her own intuition. Now, there is another scenario where, say, at time B, yes, it's the same. Maybe it's the same thing that the child is doing, but maybe the scenario is different. Like the environment is different, or the circumstances are different. Putting it in a scientific way, you're doing the same thing, but when the circumstances are different, you get a different result. It's like, so when you're dealing with machines, the circumstance could be just not listening to the instruction, or maybe there is the temperature in that area does not support for that machine to act in a certain way, right? And that is the reason the machine has acted in another way that's termed as a mistake, or something that's not actually working. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when you feel that it is the same action that is repeated, and you are thinking that why is he repeating that action, just see what is the circumstance around him that has actually led him to do that action. And remember this, when there are humans involved, right? When there are people involved, the circumstance or the environment is not just the place, is not just the situation, is not just the resources or tools that the person is using, is not just the physical body that the person has, but the circumstances or the environment that the person is actually doing that action A, which is termed as mistake by another person. The circumstances comprise of that human's mental state. What are the thoughts that are going in that person's mind? The emotional state, is he feeling good, is he feeling bad, right? He's not done the drawing well, so how were his emotions? What was he feeling then? The feelings are what drive humanity. Feelings are what are giving you results in your life, right? So just probe into the circumstances or the environment that actually for a human comprises of the physical space, the surroundings, the body, the wellness of the body, the mental state, the emotional state, as well as the mind, the spiritual state, that is whether you are mindful or conscious of you being at that moment of time and doing that whatever you intend to do. So let me give you a simple example which you can relate to. Okay, let me give you a simple example which you can relate to. Maybe you're just in the kitchen and you just added more salt in one of the recipe, in one of the dish that you are cooking. Okay, that's a mistake. Someone has pointed out, yes, that's a mistake. Or I've just done it it was by mistake. It was done by mistakenly. Whatever you are trying to tell them, you've told them. Now maybe 2 days later, there's again another dish in which you've added more salt, right? So what happened at this time point of time? The action was same, the physical space is the same, the physical setup, the environment is the same. It's the same kitchen, maybe it's a similar dish, maybe it's the same hands, it's the same the kind of stove that you are using and all of that, but still the same action is being repeated. Why do you repeat doing such mistakes? Now, it is not just the physical state that matters for a human. If it's a machine that you are assessing whether why this machine is doing the same mistake again and again, it's just the physical setup of that machine that matters, and maybe the temperature around that machine. But when there are humans involved, there are some other aspects that you need to probe into and get a better understanding of that. So maybe the next day that you've made that you've added more salt in another dish, maybe you were called upon by your child, so something else that came up. Or maybe after a week again, when you have added more salt, maybe your thoughts, right, maybe your mental state uh, was not actually how it was supposed to be. Maybe you were thinking about something else, you were worrying about something else that made you to add a little more salt than what was required. And maybe 10 days later, or maybe another 15 days later, you've done the same thing again. Oh my god, how can she keep adding salt so how can she keep adding more salt so many times even after telling her? But this time when you've done it after 20 days, it was your emotional state that was actually important for you. Your emotions were going maybe high or low or up and down, right? Maybe you are more excited about maybe your sister returning to India, or maybe you were feeling bad, feeling sad about something that has happened to you or someone you know around, right? So how were you feeling? What was your emotion at that point of time? So just just from this simple example of an adult adding more salt repeatedly, repeatedly, just as how this just doesn't depend on only that person, it depends on the mental state, the physical state, the space, the physical environment, the emotional state, and the spiritual state. The same way, when your child is kind of you seem to be observing that your child is acting the same way even if you have said no, then again the first reason is probe into why you are saying no, right? Why is it appropriate, inappropriate according to you, and why is it appropriate to your child? Again, get into this aspect of bringing in thoughts, feelings, emotions, and then the action. It's not just what we do that's important, but it is how we do that's important. And then when the child, maybe the child knew that he didn't want to do it, but he just did it. You knew that you didn't want to add so much salt, but you just did it, right? So then when the child was in that state, so what was he bombarded with? How, what were the thoughts that were passing in his or her mind, that were coming by in his or her mind? Maybe he was thinking of something else at that point of time. How were his feelings? Was he feeling sad? Was he feeling happy? How were his emotions? So even you, or even your child, when you're drawing something or painting something, sometimes it just comes out as a perfect masterpiece. Sometimes it goes here and there, but it's the same hand, it's the same brush, it's the same texture, it's the same paper that you are doing every day. Still, this happens because, again, everything is important. When there are humans involved, it is when there are humans involved, the actions that you do, the results that you exhibit are not just coming from the physical things that you are doing, but they are also a result of the mental thoughts that you are having, the mental state, the emotional state, the feelings that you are carrying, as well as the spiritual state. Just try to bring in this aspect of the mental feelings, emotional state, spiritual state. Just try to bring in this aspect and just see how you can try to understand your child in these aspects the next time when you want to label something as a mistake, some act of your child as a mistake. And the more you are trying to understand your child in these ways, in all these ways, you are supporting your child you are trusting your child, the child starts to trust you, and this will also lead to your child understanding his own self in a better way. You are laying the path for this, so he will start to understand his feelings, his thoughts, his emotions in a better way. Thanks for listening. Bye. And make sure you meet me live. Just click on the link in the description below and book your free pass for the upcoming masterclass. Cheers. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.